Please welcome Kevin Whalum.
Hey, we act a little silly in here sometimes, so I thought I'd get it started early with my entrance. I'm so happy to be here. I see that you guys have filled the room. God bless you for doing that. People still listen to jazz, huh? Okay, that's what I thought. Now I need you to do some work for me. Get those fingers popping, that head bobbing. And it'll be just like it was when you were little. Here we go. If you ever plan to motor west, travel my way, that's the highway, that's the best. Get your kicks on Route 66. It winds from Chicago to LA, more than 2,000 miles all the way. Get your kicks on Route 66. Now it goes through St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, and Oklahoma City's looking mighty pretty. You'll see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Boston, San Bernardino. Why don't you get hip to this timely tip when you make that California trip? Get your kicks on Route 66. Get hip to this timely tip when you make that California trip. Get your kicks on Route 66. Get your kicks on Route 66. Get your kicks on Route 66. Thank you. I'm going to be doing a little double duty here. We normally have a wonderful narrator, but wonderful Lori has hired me for that as well today, so it didn't take long to write all of this stuff up while all the other stuff I was doing in life. No, I was happy to do it. So we're going to take a little respite every now and then, and I'm going to read you some things that you need to know. Nathaniel Adams Coles was born on March 17, 1919 in Montgomery, Alabama, to Reverend Edward James Coles and his wife, Perlina Adams Coles. Baby Nat was definitely a Coles through and through, but his wide-set, almost Asiatic eyes puzzled his parents. It made him look cat-like, and no one else in the Coles family had eyes shaped like that. And in Alabama, in an era of racial tension, it was dangerous for a black person to be noteworthy in any way. And something innocent as the way someone's eyes were made could have provided problems for the entire family. Black folk had to be careful in the cradle of the Confederacy. Losing the Civil War was still being felt as if it had happened yesterday. After hearing glowing stories from visiting friends who had moved from the South to the northern half of the United States, Reverend and Mrs. Coles decided that a move was in order for them as well. They simply grew weary of feeling the ever-present possibility of a white person being in a foul mood and deciding to punish the nearest Negro for being black. Between the years of 1910 and 1930, almost 200,000 Negroes migrated north to Chicago, Illinois, and in 1921, the Coles family decided to join them. In a relatively short time, Nat's father became pastor of the True Light Baptist Church on the city's south side. It was here where young Nat grew into the musician we all came to love. He formed a band as a teen, and they became one of the most talked about groups in the entire black music scene in Chicago. There is some discrepancy about when or even if Nat finished high school. Some outlets have him attending Wendell Phillips High School. Some have him attending DuSable High School. Both schools are on the south side. A little further digging actually uncovers that Nat was indeed enrolled at Wendell Phillips, but was transferred to DuSable the day it opened. The DuSable camp acknowledges that he was a student there, but they have no record of him graduating. They think he just stopped coming. I'm trying to decide if that's a bad thing, because it forced him to make his trio the focus of his life. Had that never happened, maybe I'm not standing here. Perhaps he had learned to view life not through rose-colored glasses, but through what the writers Milton DeLugg and Willie Stein called an orange-colored sky. I was walking along, minding my business, when out of an orange-colored sky, flash, bam, alakazam, wonderful you came by. I was humming a tune, drinking in sunshine, when out of that orange-colored view, flash, bam, alakazam, I gotta look at you. One look and I yelled timber, watch out for flying glass. But the ceiling fell in and the bottom fell out. I went into a spin and I started to shout, I've been hit, this is it, this is it. I was walking along, minding my business, when love came and hit me in the eye. Flash, bam, alakazam, out of an orange-colored sky. One look and I yelled, timber, watch out for flying glass. But the ceiling fell in and the bottom fell out. I went into a spin and I started to shout, I've been hit, this is it, this is it. I was walking along, minding my business, when love came and hit me in the eye. Flash, bam, alakazam, and a goodbye. Flash, bam, alakazam, and goodbye. Thank you. When Nat was in high school, he was nearly 6 feet tall and very coordinated on the baseball diamond. Rumors persisted for years that after he became famous, that he could have become a professional ball player. Baseball today is not what it used to be in the at-large black community of Nat's day. It was a constant argument as to which was bigger in the black community, boxing or baseball. They say Nat was as fluid hitting and fielding as he was singing and playing piano. In that case, he was a bad man. Nat, of course, chose music over the major leagues, and we're the better for it. He chose to invigorate us with songs of love, fun, life, loss, and even nature. I invite you to immerse yourselves in the beauty of a 1948 Eaton Abez composition called Nature Boy. There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered very far, very far, over land and sea. A little shy and sad of eye, but very wise was he. And then one day, one magic day, he passed my way. And though we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. On a magic day he came my way, and though we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. In return, in return, in return, in I got through it, Lori. Whew. Ugh. I was like, I am not going to cry during that song. I promise you, I'm not gonna do it. Got close a couple of times, you probably heard it. But Nat and his future wife, Nadine Robinson, met while he was playing piano at the Panama Club in Chicago, and she was dancing. She was working as a dancer there. Not long after, they both found themselves on the road performing in a Broadway-styled show called Shuffle Along, written by the legendary U.B. Blake. They were married in Ypsilanti, Michigan, while they were traveling in between stops for the show. Once the show reached Long Beach, California, a band member ran off with the money. So that caused the show to stop, and they were all stranded trying to find a way to get back to where they were. The stranded Nat and his new wife in a city far from anything that they knew was not a good thing, and the show folded as a result of the man absconding. And he felt the pressure of being a husband for the first time. Nadine was about 10 years his senior, and she had advised him on how to handle the uncertainty of this business called show. He felt like a failure, but apparently Nadine, a columnist wrote that Nadine is Nat's biggest fan, is how she put it. Nadine is Nat's biggest fan. And Nadine appeared more certain of Nat's future success than did Nat at the time. And it was her insistence that he stay in Los Angeles that wound up giving him the opportunities that made him famous. That's called a good wife. During one of his down seasons financially, Nat confessed that he had played solo piano gigs in every beer joint from San Diego to Bakersfield. And so difficult a period it was for Nat that he sold an original composition he had written with Irving Mills in 1943 to a publisher for $50. He sold it for $50 outright. Rights to royalties, everything. The name of that song was Straighten Up and Fly Right. Took a monkey for a ride in the air. The monkey thought that everything was on the square. The buzzer tried to throw the monkey off his back, but the monkey grabbed his neck and said, now listen, Jack, straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. Cool down, Papa, don't you blow your top. Ain't no use in diving. What's the use in jiving? Straighten up and fly right. Cool down, Papa, don't you blow your top. The buzzer said, the monkey man, you're choking me. Release your hold and I will set you free. The monkey looked the buzzer right dead in the eye and said, your story sounds touching, but it sounds just like a lie. Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and stay right. Straighten up and fly right. Cool down, Papa, don't you blow your top. Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right. Cool down, Papa, don't you blow your top. Fly right.
Isn't he great? I know. He asked me, since I gave him all of this to do, his term paper, as he calls it, just a little bit about the trio. The bass player was Oscar Moore, was with Nat for guitar player was Oscar Moore. Then Wesley Prince and Irving Ashby were the other members that were with the band. His style, I think every piano player has learned something from Nat. And it comes from Earl Hines. That was his guy. But if you listen to it, Oscar Peterson followed him, Ahmad Jamal, and one of the biggest influence of Nat was actually George Shearing. So any of the things that you hear me play, these block voicings, that was Nat first, before George Shearing. So that was interesting to me to know that. The arrangements were, they did this nightly, and it was nice to hear a trio with, sorry Marcus, without drums. You know, you got to do what you got to do. You got to go. Bless his heart. The word was that one of the first places they played at a place in Los Angeles, and the drummer didn't show up. It happened to be Lester Young's brother, and the guy didn't show up, and that's how they became the trio, because they had a bass player and guitar and Nat. And Nat began to sing. With that, and a few people kept wanting him to sing, and then that just kind of just poured out of him more. But just all of the hits and everything that they did, it was all just arranged and really nicely done. And you hear it from Diana Krall. You hear it from a lot of piano players that are singers. They have learned a ton from Nat. So that was all I needed to say, because I grew up listening to it, and my biggest influence was probably him. So.
When you're the boss, you can say what you want to say, whenever you want to say it. You don't have to apologize for it. Legend has it that the only reason Nat ever began singing, and this goes along with it's sort of a B story to what she said. The only reason he ever began singing on trio dates was because of a drunken patron. Now, this is one of those good stories that he just let linger, because he said, well, that's a good story, might as well let people believe it. A drunken patron insisted that he sing Sweet Lorraine. while he let that go because it made for a good story, in a book later written by his last wife, Maria, she clarifies that Nat confessed that although he had dealt with his fair share of inebriated clientele, that this particular story was false. He said the trio was instrumental. Sometimes simply to break the monotony, I would sing a few songs in between. The more I sang, the more I was asked to sing. I wasn't trying to give the songs any special treatment. It was just one of those things. Now, I don't know about you, but to have one of the greatest crooners in the history of music just say he was trying to break the monotony is a little ego-deflating for me. Because I'm up here trying my best with focus and with intent, and he was just trying to break the monotony. You know, some people just have it like that. But let's see if we can do any justice to this 1940 Cliff Burwell Mitchell Parish classic called Sweet Lorraine. I've just found joy. I'm as happy as a baby boy with another brand new choo-choo joy. I don't know what a joy is. When I met my sweet Lorraine, Lorraine, Lorraine. She has a pair of eyes that are brighter than the summer skies. When you see them, you'll realize why I love my sweet Lorraine. Now when it's raining, I don't miss the sun, because it's in my baby's smile. Oh, can't you see that I'm the lucky one that gets to lead her down the aisle? I know, I know. Each night I pray that no one would steal her heart away. I can't wait until that lucky day when I marry sweet Lorraine. The sun, because it's in my baby's smile. Oh, Can't you see that I'm the lucky one who gets to lead her down the aisle? I know. Each night I pray that no one would steal her heart away. I can't wait until that lucky day when I marry sweet Lorraine. Thank you. Close associates to Nat say that an old trio manager named Bob Lewis holds the distinction of being the man to first drop the S from Coles and add the word king. He was to have mused Coles, huh? What about old King Cole or Nat King Cole? So subsequently, Nat was forever known as Nat King Cole. He even had to don the occasional crown on certain concerts. He was thankful that gimmick did not last. Let's do another beloved tune from Nat's commercial era that he made his own. Let's do L-O-V-E. L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary, and E is even more than anyone that you adore can love, is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart, but please don't break it. And love is made for me and you. I see. He is very, very extraordinary, and he is even more than anyone that you can know. And love is more than I can give to you. Oh, love is more than just a game for two. Two in love can make it. Take my heart, but please don't break it. Love was made for me and you. Love was made for me and you. Love was made for me and you. Yeah, buddy. Even the boss has a boss. Shoot, when you the boss's dad, you can say, I'm gonna stand up and play on this. Okay, whatever you say. And that's what he did, and that's that right there. Here we go. That was so cool. Man, I see where you got it from. Love is by far the most prevalent theme in American music. That irony, given our current primary campaign season, seems incongruous, but nevertheless, it's true. Nat Cole could have written a book on love, or at the very least, attraction. He had married Nadine, like I said, in 1937, and she was 10 years his senior. They had never been able to conceive, and that bothered Nat deeply. In 1946, while Nat was working an extended gig at Club Zanzibar in New York, he saw a beautiful young dancer named Maria Ellington working the same venue. Once he saw her, he made a point to stand in the wings each night just to watch her work. He remarked to a friend, this sounds like something I would say when I was young. He remarked to a friend, he said, if she looks as good from the front as she does from the back, I'm gonna need you to pray for me. He was smitten and helpless to do anything about it other than to pursue her. His trio mates were not happy. They loved Nadine and how good she was for Nat, in their opinion. But Nat had intimate knowledge of his marriage and what it lacked. They didn't. He wined and dined Maria over the next several weeks and asked her point blank, if I can get a divorce from my wife, will you marry me? Whew. Maria, a recent widow of an Army lieutenant killed in a routine training flight, said yes. Nat divorced Nadine in 1948 and married Maria 6 days later. From most accounts, Maria was not well liked by many already in her husband's life. The other two members of Nat's trio headed that list. She eventually asserted her control over Nat's business decisions and direction, and the trio faded away. To those in Nat's inner circle, Maria's concern was status over everything. No matter the personal machinations of his life, Nat was able to express himself in a way most never will musically. That was never more obvious than when he recorded this next classic with the great George Shearing. Written by Lionel Rand and Ian Grant in 1961, it just so happens to be my favorite song of the ones that we're doing today, Let There Be Love. Let there be you. Let there be me. Let there be oysters under the sea. Let there be wind and occasional rain. Chili con carne, sparkling champagne. Let there be birds to sing in the trees. Someone to bless me whenever I sneeze. Let there be cuckoos, a lark and a dove, but most of all, please, let there be love. Let there be birds to sing in the trees, someone to bless me whenever I sneeze. Let there be cuckoos, a lark and a dove, but first of all, please, let there be love. Let there be love. Love, 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 love. Let there be love. Thank you. Thank you. As time passed, consumers' tastes began to change. The lushness of the kind of music that Nat had made famous was now on the outside looking in. A new sound was emerging, rock and roll. There was even a new sound coming out of a little Detroit house called Hitsville. That would later become Motown. Nat was in his early 40s now and saw the shifting landscape. There was literally nothing that could stem the tide of these oncoming forces, as they too were to play a significant role in what this country would become. So Nat simply kept finding places in which to perform day in and day out. There were trips abroad and places that still revered the older sound, but they were becoming fewer and far between. Perhaps that stress played a role in the overall decline in his health and his marriage to Maria. His son, Kelly Cole, his adopted son, Kelly Cole, writes that by 1964, Dad and Mom's marriage was under considerable strain and had been for some time. They had each agreed it was time to take a serious step back and reevaluate the relationship before going on. Divorce never happened, but there's also no news that the marriage got any better toward the end of his life. As we all know, Nathaniel Adams Coles was diagnosed with lung cancer and lost his life to it on February 15th, 1965. We are all beneficiaries of this great man and his abiding musical legacy, but perhaps now we can relate to him even more as a real human being with strengths and weaknesses that make him more like each of us than we ever realized. We will move on now and play Day In, Day Out, written by Rube Bloom and Johnny Mercer in 1964. Day in, day out, that same old voodoo follows me about. The same old pounding in my heart whenever I think of you. And darling, I think of you day in and day out. Day out, day in. I needn't tell you how my days begin. When I awaken with a tingle. One possibility in view, that possibility of maybe seeing you. Come rain, come shine, I meet you and to me the day is fine. Then I kiss your lips and the pounding becomes the ocean's roar, 1,000 drums. Can't you see it, love? Could there be any doubt when there it is, day in, day out? shine. I meet you and to me the day is fine. Then I kiss your lips and the pounding becomes the ocean's roar, 1,000 drums. Can't you see it, love? Could there be any doubt? When there it is, day in and day out. Can't you see it, love? Could there be any doubt? When there it is, and there it is, and there it is, day in, day out. Thank you so much. I've been allowed to do a little commercial for myself. I'm selling CDs after the show. The one that I brought today is called One Life to Love, and it is produced by the late great George Duke. And it was a joy of my life to do that with him. He was such a beautiful person, such a giving individual. Sitting in the studio with him was beyond anything I had experienced up to that point. And I can remember, I'll tell you this quick story. I came into the studio for the first day to record, and I'm just, I am hyped as you can. I'm just like, I have a frequency. I'm just so hyped. I'm just, So I sit down next to him, and I'm just waiting on him, because we're going to write together. We're not just going to do stuff that we've already fixed. We're sitting down to write. And so he's sitting at the piano, and he looks at me and says, "Okay, what are you hearing?" I said, "Man, just play something. You George Duke, I will follow your lead." He said, "Man, this is your record. What are you hearing?" I said, "Wow, look at that." And we got into that thing. And the thing that I took from George and his entire life was, even though he was in his 60s at that time, when he would come down those steps, because the studio was in his basement, when he would come down, he would bound down those steps every morning. And he would get to the piano like it was brand new, like he had never seen it before. And he would have this expectation and this joy, and he would sit down and warm up. And it was just, I can't explain the joy that he would emote when he sat down to just warm up. It was like, oh, I get to play again. I get to play again today. And that right there is the key to me of an artist. You gotta love what you do. You gotta love it and be committed to it. Whether or not you sell 1 million records is irrelevant, because certain people are gonna hear what you do and it is going to help them. I guarantee you. So any artist in the room, if you don't love what you do, if you're doing it for money or other purposes, get a job somewhere else. Get a job somewhere else. Do it because you love it, and it'll all work out. All right, so I'll be glad to meet you, shake your hands, sign your CDs, whatever else. But we're gonna move on now. I didn't even write anything for this last song, because who needs to write anything about Unforgettable? I told Lori, I said, it was written by Irving Gordon in 1952, but I told Lori, they already know everything there is to know about this song, so let's just do it. Unforgettable, that's what you are. Unforgettable, though near or far, like a song of love that clings to me, how the thought of you does things to me never before has someone been more unforgettable in every way. And forevermore, that's how you'll stay. That's why, darling, It's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable too. Unforgettable in every way, and forevermore, that's how you'll stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks that I am unforgettable.